The Oracle Network. Look deeper.
Welcome to Brew Crime. I'm Mike.
And I'm Beck.
And I'm Nina.
All right. This episode, we are doing Bad Neighbours. I think we've all had one of those.
Yep.
Currently or previously.
I was going to say, I feel like both of you guys have bad neighbors or shitty neighbors anyway.
Maybe not as
Definitely
bad as the ones in this episode.
Not considerate. Yes.
I've never had neighbors as bad as these ones that I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, if anything, researching this made me appreciate is a strong word for how I feel about some of my neighbors, but I don't know. I'm less inclined to be angry at them after doing this research.
Like 10%, right?
Yeah, just like just a little bit less annoyed.
Perfect. Well, yeah. Let's start off then so we can see if everyone else agrees that they're just a little less annoyed with their neighbors then.
Setting the bar really high here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I chose another ridiculous title for this one.
Nice.
And it is Ain't No Fences High Enough. So everyone hates bad
keep
neighbors.
Me away from you.
Exactly. Everyone hates bad neighbors, but a bad neighbor is all about perspective. I think you're too loud, you think I'm too anal, you think you're right, but I know I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just what was happening in South Oakland in the late 1990s. Neighbors Ann Hoover and Roy Kirk were incompatible, to say the least. They had purchased row houses that were side by side, and Roy bought his with the intent of renovating it all himself. So he wanted to finance all the renovations and do all the work himself.
It's kind of typical.
Manly man.
Big job, yeah. So all of the projects that needed to be done would have taken a lot of time and money. And at first they were friendly neighbors, but when the renovations slowed and then ceased to exist, things became tense. And when his lack of property maintenance began to affect her property and its value, things became intense. See what I did there?
Mm-hmm.
So they were both members of the local housing club, which is just a group of the local owners that work together to make the neighborhood a better place to live. So they helped each other with renovations or whatever. If they could, sometimes you just need two people for a job or whatever it is. So Roy he was the president of the group, and he even took over houses in the neighborhood that had been vacated. So if the current owner had just been forget it and left it because it was just too far gone, then he would take it over. But he just kept doing that, and it was more and more. So, yes, so he was the president of the housing co-op, but the key word there being was, because Ann, along with other local owners, had him removed as president when it became clear that he had bitten off way more than he could chew.
Which, instead of helping him, they're just going to take it away from him, which I'm sure, anyways, I'm excited to hear what happens because I feel like he trumped it and didn't take that very well.
Yeah, well, I definitely get what you're saying. They're a group and they're supposed to help each other, but I saw the photos and the state of the house that he was supposed to be renovating and he was living in was shocking. Like
hoarders?
I can't believe anyone would live there.
Yikes.
There's just massive hole in the floor that goes all the way down to the basement, and holes in the wall, and a hole in the roof, and he's just filth everywhere, garbage pile in the front yard.
That reminds me of, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. Like the house that Jim Carrey lives in when he's himself is just falling apart. It's great.
Yeah.
Good mental image.
So Anne tried for years to work things out with Roy directly, and she even offered to buy the house from him and fix it up herself, but he wasn't interested. When it was clear that an amicable solution wouldn't be found, she decided to make it a legal matter. The suit alleged Roy's slowly crumbling house was causing water damage to their adjoining homes and attracting vermin. So that's disgusting.
Sounds about right, too.
Yeah. I don't want to make it sound like she was being a bully of a neighbor either, because she wasn't the only one that was having issues with Roy and the wreck that his house had become. So many people felt that his house was a complete eyesore, and they were happy with what Anne was doing by filing this lawsuit. Others felt that he was doing his best with what little money he had, and renovations are expensive, so he was taking it, one small step at a time. So let's just say there's equal numbers, Team Roy to Team Anne. Dom Cimino, chief of the Bureau of Building Inspection, was clearly on the side of Anne. Roy's building was condemned, and the city planned to demolish it.
Wow.
And that takes a lot for a building to be condemned, especially when you're claiming that you're working on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you said he's living there?
Yeah.
I mean, and then condemning him means that he's out of a home.
Yep.
Which is not good.
No. So the lawsuit that Anne had filed resulted in approximately $50,000 in fines against Roy, and it reached the point that he was required to appear in court. So the court date was set for March 25th, 1997, and the date came, but Roy did not appear, and neither did Anne, who was the complainant, so obviously she had to be there as well.
Wow.
Police were sent to Anne's home to see why she didn't appear in court for a case that she had filed. And they arrived and discovered that her home was empty, so they went next door to check on Roy. And his home also appeared vacant, but the door was wide open, so the police went in. Roy was there and clearly not pleased that a police officer was there. He was shirtless and completely disheveled, filthy. Officer Edward Drudy explained that they had come to check on him because he missed his day in court. Roy became more agitated and was asked to wait outside with another officer. Officer Drudy then continued his search into the cellar where Roy had just come from. So there's a trigger warning here because it gets gory.
Yeek.
Officer Drudy went down to the cellar, and there he found a bloody circular saw and the partially dismembered body of Ann Hoover. When the discovery was made, Roy lost control, and it took 4 officers to subdue him. When neighbors saw him being arrested, they said they had never seen him like that before, that he was usually clean and a relatively quiet person. At 10 a.m., his hands were cuffed behind his back, and because he was so out of control, they also cuffed his ankles. While they were putting him in the back of the police van, neighbors heard him yelling, quote, kill me now," end quote. The police van left the house at 10:12 a.m. and arrived at the police station in East Liberty by 10:41 a.m. When they opened the door to take Roy inside, they found him dead.
Ooh.
He had used his belt to hang himself from the caging that was on the inside of the van.
Fuck.
Jesus.
Yeah. So clear design flaw on that van, and I hope they fixed that quickly. So if you're thinking, how the hell did he hang himself he was handcuffed behind his back? I thought the same thing. And I'll be sharing a link to a show that I've never heard of called Autopsy. And the clip itself is 6 minutes long, and it's just it's pure gold. Like when I first watched it, I thought it was from like the 60s or 70s because the quality and the production is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But this crime was in 1997. So it's just like the music too. You can just go watch it. The link will be available. But the video also explains how he was able to do it with his hands tied behind his back. It's just not something that I think we need to share here. Mm-hmm. If you're interested, go watch the video. The video is of the whole case.
I don't know why I thought that when someone is handcuffed and thrown like into the back of a police car or like the police van, that they can't be handcuffed because like if an accident happens, they can't help themselves. But I guess it doesn't really matter.
They don't give a shit. No. Are they even usually seatbelted in? I think they're just handcuffed and tossed in, aren't they?
Well, I'm just thinking in his particular scenario, having his hands free should be okay because his freaking ankles are tied. Even if the truck magically stops and he gets out, he's not going to run anywhere.
Wow, but then he can punch at the cops, though, right? And that's why they'd have it handcuffed.
But his feet are tied. Where is he going to go? Take 4 steps away from him. He's not going to squirm his way to you. But I don't know. Just thinking, as a safety thing, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
I don't think they're worrying about safety of someone who just murdered someone.
Well,
just saying.
I don't know about that. I mean, I'm not really sure about the van because, like, you see the picture of the inside of the van, and it's like 2 metal benches on either side. There's no safety belts or anything like that. But I mean, these vans are made for when they're arresting like 10 people at once. You know. But yeah. Anyway, I'm no expert as to what the rules are for transporting a criminal from one place to the next.
And it'll be different from one place to the next, so who knows?
On our next episode.
Yes, so this video, if you watch the video, for you youngsters out there, that sound effect that's right at the beginning of the video is something called a typewriter. You may have not heard of it before. So Google can tell you what that is, or you can just ask the nearest hipster.
Ask Siri.
So Roy only had minor infractions on his criminal record before this, but he had previously spent time under psychiatric evaluation at the Western Psychiatric Institute. So was it a lapse in judgment and then a panic to hide the body? I doubt it, because once the police started investigating the house further, there was actually a lot of planning involved. When they went back down to the cellar after Roy was arrested, they had found that Roy had dismantled the cellar wall that was shared between his house and Ann's house. So just like brick by brick, he just took it apart until there was a wide enough hole so that he could get through. He then squeezed through, found Ann in her own home, and struck her over the head with what police believe was a hammer before strangling her to death. He then dragged her back to his cellar and began dismembering her. And that's when the police arrived, basically, while he was still doing it. So, how could a property dispute end in such horrible violence? It's
hard to believe.
Yeah. It almost makes me want to never complain about my neighbors again, you know, in comparison. Almost.
Well, just maybe don't complain to the strata then or something, right?
Yeah.
Just complain in your own household.
Yes. So that's my case. It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. It's really horrible. But at least he won't hurt anyone else.
Mm-hmm. So if you go and watch the video clip that I was talking about, just warnings, how Roy was able to kill himself by suicide is in there. So don't go watch it if you don't want to see that. And also there is crime scene footage that I'm not sure how they were allowed to put it on TV because it was,
brutal.
There's nothing blurred. Let's say that. So if you don't want to see that, don't go watch the clip.
Maybe it was like really late night TV or something.
Yeah. So just wanted to warn you, if you're not into seeing that, don't go watch the clip.
Perfect.
So, obviously, as you guys know, today we're talking about Bad Neighbours, Shitty Neighbours. I'm going to specifically be talking about William Woodward. For my pairing, I picked beer strictly just by the name, and it's called Salty Scot, because I think my guy was being a little bit salty and unnecessary reasonable. So anyways, it literally has a Scottish caricature on the front of it, and he just looks like he's mean mugging. And it says sea salted caramel Scotch ale. I think all those words combined mean I'm not going to like it.
It's so good.
Is it? But
yeah,
it works. It works for my
tasty.
pairing.
Yeah.
So it's from Parallel 49, which is, of course, a local brewing company. And it's 7.5% alcohol. It's just like a can, a little bit bigger than a Coke can. And I'm going to read what it says on here. We put the kettle on for a long boil, and this Scottish wee heavy is what we got. Rich caramel is complemented by sea salt for a complex, intense flavor. Okay, so let's try it.
I haven't had this in quite a long time, but I remember it being pretty good.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't think you'll like it, but I really like it.
I don't like it, which I don't think is to anyone's surprise. However, I do feel like I can taste what I'm supposed to taste, which is like the caramelly, scotchy flavor. And I think that baby sip was enough. Let's get into the story, folks.
Perfect.
So obviously before getting into the night of the crime, it's naturally important to just understand how everything got started and what the reason was that their quarrel began. I'm going to try to dumb it down because there's actually technically 3 families included in this, but it's like a 2 against 1 scenario. So there is the Woodwards family, and I'm going to be talking about William specifically. From what I saw, his wife kind of had nothing to do with it. So there's the Woodwards. There's Gary Hembree. It's Hembree.
Hembree? Something?
Hembree, yeah. And Tim and Carrie Blake. So to kind of set the scene, you have the Woodwards beside Hembree, and Tim and Carrie Blake live across the street from them. So kind of like making a little Bermuda Triangle of nonsense. So history on them, actually lived quite a long time together on the same stretch, on the same road. Their kids played together, essentially just all good. So where the conflict started is that Barbara Woodward, so William's wife, said that one of her family members contacted her and let her know that someone is going to be stopping by their house to leave a present for their daughter on the front porch. And essentially the present ended up going missing. Immediately, the Woodwards accused Gary's daughter of having stolen the present. Mm-hmm. I tried to figure out why they just assumed it was her. I mean, other than the assumption that it's a teenage girl around the same age, so maybe she knew it was a present for someone of her age or whatever, but I genuinely couldn't find anything that says if she stole it or didn't steal it. And no, the missing gift was never located. But that's essentially where their drama started, which I think seems pretty minor.
Yeah, really. It seems really minor.
I don't know. I mean, personally working obviously with e-com customers and just in what I do in my real day job, a lot of patients get stuff delivered. A lot of, people order stuff all the time, and I don't know, stuff goes missing, right? Like people take stuff from your front porch. Obviously, depending on the courier you use, sometimes not have a great track record, but I'd say 99.9% of the time it's delivered. So whatever. In this particular case, because it was a family member that dropped off the package, there was no ambiguity of maybe it was the postal service or anything like that. Anyways, so that's where it started. A lot of bickering started. They started doing really petty things to each other, or as my beer says, kind of some salty attitudes. So one example is the Woodwards called the police on Gary for parking his truck on the grass instead of on the driveway, which apparently you're not allowed to do in this city, which makes no sense. If it's your property and your grass, park your car where the fuck you want it. Couldn't do that, so he got a ticket, which is fine. In retaliation to this, Gary contacted the police and reported to the police that William actually was raising chickens in his backyard. And it was actually against the law to raise chickens within city limits. So unfortunately, he was asked to remove his chickens. And from here is where everything took a downward spiral. William actually was a veteran, and he suffered from PTSD. And he actually saw his chickens as therapy animals. So he thought that this was just unbelievable that the neighbor who stole his daughter's packet now took away his therapy animals. I'll include a picture, which, when Mike posts it, but he would literally just sit on a lawn chair in front of his house all day and night, swearing and like cursing at anyone who's walking by. So it's a bit tough because he had kind of all the signs of PTSD, that's just trauma from the war. And then this to him was just like crossing that line.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely sad. And I mean, like, I think if you think about it, like, oh, you have to give your chickens away, right? But if you're seeing these as therapy animals, you're going out, you're taking care of them, you're doing all of this.
Yeah.
It definitely
It's an important part of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
No one's taking my fish away.
No, yeah. But, I think everyone has their quirks and people are dealing with many different things. And, you taking a chicken from one person to another person is going to have a different effect, or obviously just using chicken as an example. But he had a very, very bad reaction to this. There's also reports of the Gary family, the Kelly family. They would just play really loud music, which William assumed was directed at him. From what I saw and understood, I don't think it was. I think William was jumping to conclusions of, well, we're having this quarrel, so anything they're doing, like having a backyard barbecue with the loud music, was just to annoy them. It's like, well, no. Yeah. They're doing that to have a backyard barbecue,
Yeah.
Mm.
So let's get to the night when everything happened. So brings us to 2012, right around Labor Day. And William actually had a camera set up on his front porch to kind of see the, it's not a parking lot. What is it called? Just driveway.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually see him straight up army crawling, on the cement over to his neighbor's house with a rifle.
Ugh.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, nighttime. I'll get into later what he did. But when he was talking about the experience, he's like, I was a soldier going to war. I had to protect my family. And this was him going to mission. So it kind of just speaks a bit of his psyche, that how he approached that. I mean, realistically, if he was going to walk over and shoot them, he could have fucking walked over. It was the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
There was no reason that he had to go on a recon mission, Call of Dutying it, crawling.
Rambo.
I don't know. I mean, he shouldn't have done it to begin with, but I think it just speaks a little bit to where his mindset was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, he essentially went kind of army crawled across the street and did some bad things. So after William did his army crawl to go to his neighbor's house, he went to Gary's house where Gary was having a barbecue with his family and friends there. And one of his other friends, Roger, was there, who was kind of like a co-conspirator in his mind, egging him on and whatever, all of these things. Roger was tussling with his son outside, just friendly father-son bonding. Mm-hmm. And he interrupted them and shot Roger and shot and killed him. Then with the commotion, the other neighbor ran out to see what was going on. And William ended up also shooting Carrie dead, in the car parking lot. And Also, Tim Blake ended up running out, which was the neighbor from across the street, to just also try to kind of interfere. And William also shot him.
Jeez.
Tim Blake actually ended up surviving. He was one out of the 3 who survived. William specifically targeted his rage at just the adult men that were interfering with him. And in a sense, he felt threatened by them.
Right, but those kids were right there, right?
Yep,
Or
but he had the control. It was the Rogers kid that was there. I mean, there was like the wives were there and all that. Nothing directed at them. It was specifically these men who, in his opinion, were bullying him and were an immediate threat to him and his wife and his daughter.
Right.
So from everything that I saw when the police came, William willingly went with the police. Something that the police actually asked him was, how come he let the last guy live? And he said, well, I just ran out of bullets.
Jeez.
Yeah, which is terrifying. Of course, this went to trial. He ended up being tried for 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. A big focus of William's defense was, his military history. I guess there was a brain injury that had occurred while he was serving. Obviously, the PTSD disorder. And apparently he was claiming that he heard Gary and Roger talking, that they were going to get after him the day after. And he needed to stop that. By no means was there any reports that anyone heard these guys plotting or planning anything against him. It's just what he understood and where he decided that this is something he needed to take into his own hands. Mm-hmm. So this happened in Florida, which I know we all love our Florida stories.
Damn it, Florida.
But Florida does have a rule where you can stand your ground. So if someone comes onto your property, you can do this. So William's defense also tried to go with that. Well, these guys were an immediate threat on his property for him. So he stood his ground, and it was a form of self-defense.
Actively attacking
he
is
went
not...
over to their property, right?
Which is
that law is bullshit regardless, but...
Yep. Yeah. And you 100% agree with you, and that is exactly what the judge said as well. So it was a difference if, they actually were plotting to come to him and break into his house and get him, and he shot them dead if they broke and entered into his house. A little bit different. I mean, I think it's also excessive to empty out a gun onto someone. But no, he prepared himself for battle. Army crawled over and execution style took out the specific people he needed to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
in front of their friends or in front of their family.
It's horrifying. I mean, regardless if family's there or not, anything, but to claim the self-defense thing, it's well, these guys were literally having a fun backyard barbecue. What are you talking about?
Right.
So obviously his defense claim didn't go anywhere. He ended up being found guilty of both the first-degree murders and the attempted murder. Of course, he's currently serving life sentences. Apparently his defense are still trying to appeal the conviction, essentially just saying that stress, and these are all the things that led to that. But I mean, at the end of the day, they were having a neighbor dispute about something very minor, and and all of that, and he literally dressed up, army crawled over, and just execution style took people out. Plus, I don't think his comment saying that he ran out of bullets while the last guy didn't die did him any favors.
No, not at all.
Nope.
I think that the defense would have been better to plead diminished capacity, not self-defense. It wasn't self-defense.
But I think they were trying to do the stand your ground, and he was protecting himself. So if you do the stand your ground, that's self-defense.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying they shouldn't have because it wasn't even close.
Or even just go for, as you said, that, or insanity plea. He thought he heard them talking, so he had to get ready for battle and army crawl and do all of these things, right?
Just blame it on the PTSD. Yeah.
I mean, that's an easy out. PTSD is 100% for sure a thing. And, millions of people across the world suffer from that. 100%. But I just think given all of his history and clearly some of the traumas that he experienced in his life, I was a bit surprised that wasn't more of the focus of, he was being bullied, he felt harassed, he felt this and this and this, but they went with the stand your ground. So, yeah, that's the story.
Wow, that is some pretty shitty neighbors. Jeez.
It's sad. I mean, I feel like it clearly does look like some of the taunting went both ways, which is one thing. Obviously, what William did escalated everything, but before there was no threats of violence, nothing like that. I actually also think at some point, both families tried to get restraining orders against each other, and the judge basically just said, like, go home. like you're grown men, figure your shit out and go home. Maybe now in hindsight, that judge is just like, oh, fuck. But you can never predict that something's going to escalate like this. So, yeah, that's it. That's all I wrote.
All right, well, get ready for the next one then. All right, so I just titled mine, Fuck Daniel Burnside. That's all I did. No fancy name.
Creative. I guess I shouldn't talk shit because I don't have a title for mine. So
yeah, that's all this guy deserves, though. So some people are just bad neighbors. Some people make too much noise, like my upstairs neighbors, which I heard earlier. Some people are hoarders and bring rodent infestations, kind of like yours, Nina. Some people are just so dirty they make all kinds of awful smells. Some towns, like Ulysses, Pennsylvania, have a serious problem with a neo-Nazi they may not be trying hard enough to shut up. Daniel Burnside is a big bearded white dude with a ton of tattoos who happens to fear people that look or sound different than him. His fear, probably derived from his upbringing, has made him a leader in the neo-Nazi movement and the KKK movement in Pennsylvania. His sleepy Republican town that is located in Potter County has voted Democratic only once since 1888. And because of this, it seems that hate has been able to fester undeterred for decades, if not over 100 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mental note, don't move there.
Yeah, no. He, like many idiots, fear becoming a minority in the United States because they hate minorities and they treat them terribly, so he does not want to become one.
Does he know that that's not how that works? Like, you just don't wake up one day as a minority?
And also, big deal.
Also big deal, but still, it just tells you how stupid this guy is.
Yeah. He has been complicit in spreading KKK literature in his town, such as a letter that made its way to Joe Lester, a man who worked at a local restaurant and was married to a woman with Jamaican ancestry. He and his loser buddies would make sure to let them both know that they were not welcome in town. This bullying would force Joe Lester to run an anti-racist rally in the town where dozens of people would come out in support of them. Sadly, Daniel and his garbage buddies would troll around this protest and threaten them, and in the end, Joe and his wife would leave Ulysses in fear for their life.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Sorry, which state was this in?
Pennsylvania. Daniel is an out and proud neo-Nazi, also, as his house is decorated with Nazi flags, Confederate flags, Nazi carvings, swastikas, and other Nazi paraphernalia. You see, he is an artist. You ask what type? He is a chainsaw carver, to be exact, and he loves to carve all kinds of Nazi propaganda.
I mean, there's a niche for everything.
Yeah. He definitely seems to be a fan of the eagle with a touch of a swastika below it, just like all of those old Nazi things.
Yes.
Okay, all of this vile quote-unquote art is visible from the road on the north side of this sleepy town of less than 700 people. They don't seem to like him, but they don't make him feel uncomfortable either. He has been tied to the Aryan Strike Force, a neo-Nazi cell that had planned a suicide attack against anti-racist protests. Of course, these assholes included Daniel, had all kinds of weapons and drug offenses to their names, as they are not good people. Their plan was to send a member of this group that had a terminal illness to the protest with a bomb hidden in his oxygen tank so that he would blow up and kill people of the area that were against their hate.
Like a suicide bomber?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Aren't they in the that's wrong religion?
No. These kind of scumbags are just as dangerous and just as crazy as the...
I just don't think it's common for neo-Nazis to self-sacrifice.
Well, that's true.
Because the spilling of their privileged white blood, whatever the hell you call it. So I'm just surprised to hear that this is the route they decided to take.
The guy was terminally ill. That's probably the only reason they would have go there.
Fair.
Of course, Daniel and his friends loved the fact that Trump was elected as president, as it helped to embolden them. So this next part was a quote from a National Post article. Neo-Nazis and their opponents here say that white extremists have grown more confident and confrontational. Since the rise of Donald Trump, 2 months before the 2016 presidential election, the KKK established a 24-hour Klan line and sent goodie bags containing lollipops and flyers to hundreds of homes. You can sleep tonight knowing the Klan is awake, the message read.
And buying lollipops?
Yeah, it seems to be a thing that happens a lot with KKK paraphernalia and these hateful letters and stuff.
Lollipops.
Yeah.
You imagine this like hardcore Nazi guy just sitting there with a fucking soother, like, hi, guy.
You don't see them eating them usually. They hand them out.
Yeah, but it's just...
That's just weird.
Just makes no sense.
A regional newspaper ran a Klan advertisement saying, God bless the KKK.
Oh, disgusting.
Yes. 2 weeks later, the area's two neo-Nazi groups, the National Socialist Movement, NSM, and the Aryan Strike Force, held a white unity meeting in Ulysses to discuss their response to Trump's winning and a plan to join in action. And this was at his farm. One organizer would not say when the group had last met, simply commenting, it's just a good time. Daniel Burnside also happened to be the leader of the local National Socialist Movement. Something I always find funny is Nazis always seem to hate left-leaning people that want to use socialist ideas to help the majority. The Nazi Party sure has a stupid fucking name considering it has socialist in the name.
Yeah.
He came by his hate organically as his grandfather was a Nazi supporter was a U.S. Army soldier that fought in Europe in World War II. Because of this upbringing, he also considered the Holocaust to be a lie. Yeah.
I do not now, nor will I ever understand how you can actually believe that.
Because you're garbage. It's the only way.
But it's just like, how is it not a thing?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. I don't get it.
This guy is a serious dumpster fire who happens to embolden all kinds of garbage people. One time, a police officer confiscated one of his Nazi flags, but after a court order, he was forced to give the flag back as he was being charged with theft. In the cop's defense, he would leave the police service soon after this order as he found it despicable. So he just quit being a cop. Before I finish with a bunch of quotes, I just wanted to point out that Pennsylvania seems to have quite a few of these bad neighbors, as there are 36 different racial hate groups, and this is more than Alabama, Arkansas, and Kansas.
That's surprising.
Yeah. Although, if you look per capita, I think it is, Washington has more hate groups than anywhere in the States, which is really surprising too. So here's some quotes. And these are from him, so they're horrible. We're staring down the barrel of a gun here in white America. There's still 193 million white Americans. Yes, the vast majority of them are in their 60s and 70s. Will you be in the ground in the next 20 years? And therefore, will have the possibility of becoming a minority in our own country, Burnside said. And this was a back and forth with a African-American media person. So she's like, it sounds like you are afraid of being me. And then his response was, this is my country. She went back, this is also my country. And then he just screamed back at her, you guys didn't win the culture war. So,
What?
Yeah.
He's just out to lunch.
Oh, yeah. No, this guy is just a whack job. So one day recently, Burnside, accompanied by a reporter, drove around town dressed in a shirt featuring Hitler's face as the main design. None of the locals he chatted with objected to this attire at all. City Council President Roy Hunt insisted that this reflected the town's generous spirits. We're a laid-back town, and we're going to be nice to everybody, Hunt said. I've known Danny for 20 years. If you were in town and you walked around with him, you're right. He'll be welcome in every store. If you're nice, people will be nice to you 98% of the time.
But he's not being nice.
Yeah, no.
He's being a dick.
He's a piece of shit, walking around trying to strike fear into people that are different than him. You don't be nice to people like that. Yeah, and then this is the same guy. If you were to put something up that said, kill all members of a race, in my opinion, that would be crossing the line. but he doesn't have that sign up.
Doesn't he? Because that's what his shirt says.
That's what his...
Not with words.
Yeah, exactly. That's what his whole house decor says. So let's just finish with one sort of happy note. James Hard Stern, a 54-year-old black man, became the new president of the National Socialist Movement in 2019. He is a black civil rights activist from California, and he was able to dupe the douchebags that ran the organization. The member of the group liked to stomp around in Nazi uniforms at all kinds of rallies, and this takeover was a big blow to the NSM movement. His first move was to ask a judge in Virginia to find this group complicit and culpable in the deadly Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville in 2017. He also planned to change the hate group's website to a space that would educate people on the Holocaust and its history. This might just be the best fuck you to neo-Nazis everywhere. And then this quote is from James. I did the hard and dangerous part, Stern told the Washington Post. As a black man, I took over a neo-Nazi group and outsmarted them. But yeah, that's my terrible fucking neighbor.
Yeah.
I just can't. Like, how did they not think the Holocaust was real?
I think, it's one of those, I think they like to use it as a buzzword because they just really like that it happened, and they don't think it's a bad thing, so it didn't happen.
But, like, if you like that it happened, then say it happened. Yeah, the Holocaust is real. We murdered all of them. Woo! Why are you saying it's not a thing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know
just
either.
fucked up.
I'll never understand these kind of people because they're fucking whacked.
Not worth understanding.
No, not
But
really,
it's
no.
like, what if they say that, like, so the Holocaust didn't happen, and I'm using air quotes here very heavily. Would they agree that a genocide happened?
They wouldn't consider it genocide, probably.
I'm over this topic.
Yep.
Politely, I remove myself from this conversation.
All right. Well, if you've got some bad neighbors, let us know what they're like.
Yeah. If you have some bad neighbors that are bad in a funny way, that would be even better.
Mm-hmm. You can send those stories to brewcrime@pacificbeerchat.com. If you want to find us online, you can go to brewcrime.com. You can find us on all social media at brewcrime. If you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/brewcrime. The money's used to make the show better and help pay for the hosting and make our equipment better. So shout out to our Patreon supporters. True Crime Nana, Daniela, Ange, Nina's mom, 3 Beers In Podcast, and the faves of our lives. Bye.
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 The Menendez brothers. We are talking about Pamela Smart, Andrea Yates.
I think that is kind of one of the first things that started my true crime obsession.
We're definitely going to be diving into the legal and psychological parts of this case.
First of all, you shouldn't be friends with people that ask you to cut up somebody's body. And on the flip side, you shouldn't be friends with somebody who is willing to cut up somebody's body.
If she is abusing drugs at 9 and 12 years old, it would make sense that there was some significant abuse going on in the house.
That's not normal.
Never trust the mother or the lover.
Who is a self-professed drug dealer in court?
That's why we always say get a lawyer, because you just fed them this information that they didn't have, and they're now using it against you.
Hi everybody, my name's Mary.
And I'm Deirdre.
And we're from Not Your Normal Murder Podcast. With my experience in psychiatry
and my experience in criminal justice,
we bring a fresh perspective on small town cases and those cases you can't forget.
If you love true crime, a little bit of sarcastic banter, but lots of objective research, come find us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts.
You know what's the best part of Hump Day? There's a new episode every Wednesday.
See you there.
This says sake is fermented like beer and soju is distilled like a vodka. So it's actually like a Japanese vodka.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to take shots of it and not drink a lot of it. But
But Nina. It's wasty pants.
One of these, I haven't gotten wasted in so long.
As the phone drops.
Yeah, I mashed the keypad. Cut this out.
Of course. Put
Where
it
the
at the
hell
end.
did I put my phone before? God damn it. I just don't know where to put it. It's this new case. I don't know. It takes up more space. I don't want you guys having an all boob shot here. Meh.
Breast cam.
Whatever. Okay, here we are.
Boob tube.
Boob tube, yeah.
When it was clear that in amicable... I'm going to do that sentence again because I know that word. And if you're wondering why I didn't do a pairing this week, it's because I ran out of time. So, there's that.
We got one person that did a pairing, so that's okay.
Yay, that's me this time.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Well, we'll get ready for the next story then.
Oh, you guys just disappeared from my screen. Can you still see me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I get the next name right.
No problem.
I actually misspoke there. I messed up my name, so I'm just going to start again, okay?
Okay.
What is it called? What's the word I'm looking for? They're still trying to
Appeal.
overturn.
With a neo-Nazi, that they may not be... Shut. This bullying would end... this bullying would force Joe Lester and his... I can speak this morning. Or this afternoon. It's like, look at the clock again.
That's why you're confused. You thought it was the morning.
Yeah, I woke up really early to write my next story. So, confrontational. To discuss their response to Trump and plan to join action. I'm going to say that again. It sounds like you're afraid of being me, Snyder said. This is my country. Or, damn, let me say that again. Sorry. Yeah, this was in talks with this African-American reporter. Her last name was Burnside. And she said, her last name was Snyder. I had a lot of spelling mistakes. I wrote this really tired.